and this is the Agegroup Multisport podcast with me, Richard Conway. This is a platform for Agegroup Multisport athletes to showcase their journeys. Welcome along to another episode of the Agegroup Multisport podcast. Thank you once again for taking your time out to give us a listen. Much appreciated. On this episode, we speak to Jane Blunt, and Jane got in touch after she spoke to a friend that she hadn't been in touch with for over 3 years and started to reflect on what she'd done in those 3 years. And it was then that she realised how far she'd come. So she decided that she'd get in touch and like to share a story. And it was a great chat. We cover lots of things, and a few of those are the benefits of sport and exercise in general on mental health and well-being. Jane discusses how joining a club has benefited her and helped her progression in the sport. She shares her inspirations, and one of those being Louise Minchin, who also qualified to represent GB. And also the mistakes that she's made along the way. So lots to get at there. Hope you enjoy Jane's story. It was really nice to meet her, and that's all coming up. The Duathlon European Championships are looming large. They take place on March the 17th over in Carole, Italy, which is near Venice. We're looking forward to going over there, me and Mrs. C. So if you're over there and you've qualified, or if you're watching, if you see me in my AMP cap, come and say hello. It'd be great to meet you. A couple of podcasts that I've been listening to over the last couple of weeks. The first one was by Purple Patch Podcast, and quite apt. He'd put a podcast about training indoors, which was very good. If you head over to your favourite podcast platform and look up Purple Patch Podcast. The second podcast I was listening to over the last couple of weeks was the Doctors of Running podcast, and on that episode they were basically talking about... Another podcast I was listening to over the last couple of weeks was the Doctors of Running podcast. On episode 129 they were discussing finding the right shoe for you by using what has now been termed as the Run Cat method, and basically it's all about finding the right shoe for you. And they were just basically saying that as we're all different, recommendations are okay, but they only go so far, and unless you try them on to see what the shoes are like, then it doesn't really matter what the advertisements say or what Kipchoge does in his fast shoe. If you don't like it and it's not comfortable, then it's no good. And basically this Run Cat tool gives you 5 simple criteria to help you evaluate new shoes. And you can find the paper that was written up on this in the Journal of Sports Science. I think it was published in 2020. Basically, Run Cat gives you 5 simple criteria to help you evaluate new shoes. And Matt, the podcast host, gives you a background on the Run Cat and a primer of how effectively to use it. So yeah, good listen. But comfort wins out, I think, is the takeaway from this podcast. You know, we mentioned quite a lot about cycling on here. Well, it's one of our sports, unless you do an aquathlon, where you're not riding a bike, I suppose. But in the main, we all ride bikes. I love cycling, as you're probably aware on this podcast, always mentioning the races that are going on. And this episode's no exception, especially when we have a British winner of one of the classics, the Strade Bianchi, which is set in Tuscany over in Italy. And it finishes in Siena. And the gradient up to the finish line is quite impressive. So it's a hell of a climb up to the Piazza del Campo. And yeah, what a finish, Tom. First British cyclist in history to win the race. If you haven't seen it, just go and watch the highlights on YouTube. Really, really special. Lots of other cycling going on. We've got two. You'd think this was a cycling podcast, wouldn't you? But we've got two races on at the moment, which are Paris-Nice and the Tirreno Adriatico. Both really good races going on at the moment. They're available on GCN, Global Cycling Network, which you can get online, and they're also available on Eurosport. So, yeah, really fantastic to watch, especially when you're training on the turbo. That's when I usually watch them. On a triathlon front, the Arena Games has kicked off again. First round was really exciting to watch. A couple of Brits in there did really well, as I mentioned on the last episode. And the next race is this weekend coming up over in Switzerland. So we'll have something to talk about on the next podcast. That'll be cool. I was a bit pissed off this week. My Garmin 945 just packed in. I went for a swim and looked down at my watch, and all I had was a blank screen. And I knew it wasn't the battery running out, because I'd only just charged it the night before, ready for my swim. So after seeing something on Facebook where an athlete had sent theirs back and got a replacement, I looked into it, and I've done the same. So I went online and chatted to someone, give them the serial number on my Garmin watch, and sent it off, and hopefully I'll get a replacement. Don't think it'll be back in time for Italy, unfortunately, but there you go. I am missing having it, all the metrics that I'm used to, and my sleep and all the workouts that usually go through. So yeah, it's a bit weird not having a watch, but going out running last night with Mrs. C was quite refreshing, not having anything to look at. So yeah, it was quite nice. So hopefully that'll get sorted out. Right, that's about it, me rambling on. Time for the main event, and I hope you enjoy Jane's journey, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you for coming on and agreeing to appear on the podcast. Much appreciated.
That's okay. No, I'm sort of umming and ahhing about it, whether I don't know whether to do it or not, but I want to tell my story, because it is it only came to me the other day when I realised that I hadn't seen someone for 3 years, and then I had to. She said, "Oh, what have you been doing?" And I was like, "Well, actually, she didn't even know I had swam, run, and bike. So to go to the World Championships in Romania and come fourth, she was like, really?" So it's just it is quite amazing at 55, when I haven't done anything like this before, to achieve what I did. So I'm really pleased, and I think it should encourage other people that it's never too late to start something new, and I love it. It's the best thing. I wish I'd started earlier, but hey ho, it's
That's fantastic that one, you've come to that conclusion that you've got a story worth sharing, because I truly believe, and that's why I started the podcast, that everybody has, regardless of whether you think it's worthy or not, everybody's got a story worth listening to. So I really am thrilled that you've actually got to that decision. And once again, just thank you for agreeing to come on and share it. Because like you say, that's why we do it, to inspire and encourage other people.
Yeah. I mean, if I listen to myself, I think, it is like, wow, well, if she can do it, why can't I do it? So, yes, I think people need to tell their story, because, you think that everyone's elite and, but everyone's just started from the same place, and we've all worked hard to get where we are, whether, whatever we do. I know that I have come to include, being older, it is a bit more, being part of a triathlon club, and I'm with a lot of really talented youngsters, and, they'd love to be first on the podium and things like that, and I've only been doing a couple of years and won about 5 triathlons, and they're like, oh, God, but it's because I'm 50. They're in their 30s and 40s or 20s, and they're amazing. But there are so many people in those age groups that are amazing too. And I think, but you still got to enter to win. So, it is. There's less competition as you get older, but it's still, you've got to still put in the training, and you've still got to get out there in weathers, and you do have to get fit for it. You can't just turn up. So. Absolutely. Yeah,
100% agree. Yeah, you've got to put the work in, Otherwise, you don't get
do.
to where you've got to, and that's it.
No, I was just going to sort of start off my story, really. I used to play tennis and I used to coach tennis, and I was quite sporty in my younger years. I played full-time tennis. I mean, that's all I did. I've got a long story to tell, but it would take too long in this podcast. But I came out of school and we played tennis full-time, and I got to quite a good standard, but I wasn't good enough to play internationally or nationally, really. And so I became a coach.
Right.
And I coached tennis for a bit, and I coached in the Middle East and Australia. This is all in my younger days. And then I ruptured my Achilles tendon while I was in Doha in Qatar coaching. I was coaching the sheikh's wives and his children, and I was at the Doha Sheraton Hotel, and I was like the head coach there. And there was nothing else to do while you were out there except to do more sport, because expats, there was no bars or club, to meet people. And so I did step aerobics in the evenings after coaching all day, and I ruptured my Achilles. I was too tired. Anyway, because I coached the sheikh, I had an MRI scan that same day in the afternoon. And he said, yeah, it's ruptured. We can either sort of sew it up, or you can sort of go home and just rest it and, let nature heal. So that's what I decided to do. I thought I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to come home. 22 years ago, I was coaching and I was playing for my local club, and I had a prolapse disc hitting a backhand. I was playing a first team mixed doubles. We were doing well. Hit a backhand, and I dropped to my knees. My back just completely went. I was seized. And that was it. I didn't really hit a tennis ball again after that.
Yeah.
Because I just thought, I've had loads of sprain. Through sport, you get sprained ankles, calf muscles, hamstring. There's always those things going on. But my back, it really did. I just thought, I can't play like I used to play. And so I wasn't interested anymore. And then I went into travel, and I became an air hostess, and I was a Thomas Cook manager. I did lots of things where it wasn't needed to do sport, but I still, had dogs and walked and, still exercised. But then my mum and my brother both felt really poorly. My mum had dementia, my brother had leukemia, and I spent sort of like 10 years of looking after them and taking them to King's, and I don't know, it was just hospital appointments, care homes, it took 10 years of my life, and I didn't really do anything for me at all in that time, except for look after all my spare time when not working. I was looking after them. And then unfortunately, when they both had died, I went and saw a counsellor at the hospice. What do I do now? And she goes, well, now it's time for you. And I can remember her saying this, it's like, this is your time now. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? To fill in the void of just going around hospitals and things. And she said, well, what do you really enjoy? And I said, well, I love sport, tennis. And she goes, well, why don't you pick that up again? So I went to my local club and I hit with the head coach there, and I only hit with him 3 times, and my tore calf muscle, because I was trying to be how I used to be.
Yeah.
We were banging that ball across the court, and I was thinking, this is great. I was running around like I hadn't trained, I wasn't fit enough to play like I was playing. So of course I had injured myself. And, that took ages to heal, ages. And I sort of gave up. I thought, oh, I was nothing, what can I do? And then my local gym was doing like an open evening, and it was sort of to try all sorts of different things, boxercise, spin, all those sort of things. And I went along in my oversized T-shirt, feeling really like out of place with all the lycra and everything. And anyway, it was a fun evening. It was at Christmas. Everyone was wearing Santa hats. It was jolly and everything. And I thought, I'm going to start to come to this gym and start doing things. And then I met this young girl, Ellie, and she was a coach there, a personal trainer, but she also had just done her first sprint triathlon. And she goes, why don't you try this? So it's a long story getting to where I was going to get to. But this is how I got into triathlon, by talking to Ellie at the gym. And she showed me on a video her doing a triathlon. Her boyfriend had videoed. And I thought, that looks fun. I just thought, yeah. But she said, well, you need a Garmin watch, you need a wetsuit, you need this, you need that. I was like, I can't afford all that. you know. And she goes, well, just, you know, start off. I said, I had a mountain bike, you know, with lots of dust on it. But I thought, well, okay, well, I'll try, I'll start as a goal. I'll do it as a goal. And I entered my local Hever Super Sprint Tri, which was like 8 months later. And it was great because it was a goal to go for, but it got me out. And then, of course, this was 2020, and this is when COVID hit. So the good and the bad news about that, from my point of view, it was lovely because the roads were all empty. Always feel so guilty when I say I loved the COVID time, because it was just the roads everywhere was, you know, cycling on the road when you're not used to it, and the thing was just so much easier. And I had my mountain bike. I didn't have a road bike. And so I started doing that. And then I couldn't have coaching from Ellie because of COVID. We weren't allowed to go to the gym or anything. So she sort of sent me a few things, how are you getting on? But I just sort of did my own thing. And in September, along with restrictions, we were allowed to do the triathlon. And I'd hired a wetsuit. I'd gone to Hever a couple of times to swim in the lake to get used to it. And then I just entered. And I just went along with my sister-in-law, with my mountain bike, all these people with their everything. You know, I sort of Googled, you know, what to do and transition and things, but I just had trainers. I didn't have the cleats or the shoes, but I had hired this wetsuit because I thought I knew the lake would be cold and the buoyancy would help. Anyway, I got in the lake. You had to jump in the lake. And it was the worst. I just couldn't breathe. I had to do breaststroke all the way around. It was only 400 meters because it was a super sprint. And my sister-in-law was watching, and I was like so embarrassed because I was saying, yeah, I can do crawl. Yeah, I can do I was doing breaststroke. Anyway, out I came, did the bike. The bike was fine. I was overtaken by so many people because they were on their road bikes. But, you know, it was fun. I did the run. I finished. I came 8th in my age group, and I loved it. Even though, you know, I didn't have all the stuff, I tell you, it really got something inside me thinking, I really like this. I want to do this. It's the best feeling in the world because you put in the work, and crossing that line, it's just amazing. Anyway, then after that, I joined the Tunbridge Wells Triathlon Club. That winter, I thought, okay, I can't afford a coach or anything, but, you know, I'll join. Oh, yeah, the other thing I did was I bought this book, Dare to Try, Louise mentioned, because she went to the GB thing. So I just listened to her a lot, how scared she was. And, you know, so I can relate to her book very, you know, I think she was amazing, which is she inspired me. Yeah, Tunbridge Wells Triathlon Club, which was the best thing I did. Best thing ever, because they were all like me, nutty. Absolutely nutty. They all, you know, get up at 8, run, cycle, swim. They were all talked like I talk. You know, they all understood. My husband has never been in a gym in his life. He doesn't understand what I'm talking about at all by what I do. And it's just amazing to mix with other people that were so similar to me, you know, obviously from the newbies to the elite, but you could just learn tips off them. And, you know, you just talk to them and say, well, how do you do that? I just learned so much. And they were so kind to me. Best thing I did. And then I just learned from them, and I got a road bike through helping with them. But that was a disaster with cleats, because I got a road bike and cleats at the same time, which was a big mistake because the mountain bike I was used to was so heavy. Suddenly I was with drop bars, a light bike and cleats, and it was just all much to my old brain. And I just fell off, broke my derailleur, kept falling off. I thought, I'm not doing this. So I entered another try, my first try with the club, and I took and put foot pedals on. I thought, I want to, and sort of slightly inside me, I do want to win. And I knew I wasn't going to win if I had cleats on because it would slow me down because I'd be scared. So I took them off and I won my age group. The first try that I did with the club, and they're like, you're amazing. I just remember them taking pictures of the club running by, and they go, there's Jane. I could hear, why she's up there with the others, you know. And I was like, this is amazing. And so yeah, I won my first. I had picture taken. We were in the paper, and I, you know, it just went from there. really. I entered lots of more tries, and then I entered Hever again the next year. That year, I'm only a year on, but I still won about 4 triathlons in my age group. I'd run the Buell 15 mile with a friend on my birthday. I was just into it. Everything, every spare moment was doing training. And I even won a prize from the club because I did the most activities in the club. I just turned up for everything. And they gave me a buff, the Tom George Triathlon Club buff, because I'd done so many events, so many trainings. And so then I entered Hever again. But I was going to up it to the sprint. And then my husband does plants. He enters Hampton Court and Chelsea Flower Show. And that year, because of COVID, Chelsea Flower Show had been moved to September. So this clashed with Hever. And so I couldn't do the sprint, which was on the Saturday. And the only event on the Sunday I could do was like the standard duathlon. And I thought, okay, let's finish this on something different, go for it. It's a long distance. I hadn't really trained for it. There was another man in the club, John Bowman, who just does everything. And I just thought, well, if he can do it, I'll do it with him. And anyway, I went along. Before then, another kind lady, Pippa, at the club, she said, it's a world qualifier, don't you? I went, oh, no, is it? Oh, no. I thought, that's it. I don't want to do it. They'll all be too good. I'll be right at the back. They'll be in their GB outfit. And I thought that really put me off doing it. And I thought, like, come on, just do your best, Jane. Do your best. Anyway, so it was an amazing race. It was long, but I so enjoyed it. And I came second.
Wow.
And it was just incredible. The lady that came first was a GB athlete. And I was just like, I was just in shock. Afterwards, they were like, wow. And David Bagg from the club, who also does lots of triathlons, and he's in the same age group as me, and he does duathlons. He was there as well, and he'd qualified. He goes, Jane, you've qualified. I went, I can't believe it. I can't have. And they go, yeah, you have. You qualified. And I was like, you're going to Romania. I was like, oh my God. It just didn't sink in. I kept looking at the bit of paper saying 2 on it. I was like, nah, Anyway, so it was just a dream. And then as soon as that dream finished, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to do it again. I'm going to have to do another duathlon now, which isn't really what I was doing tries. It wasn't something that I thought I want to be a duathlete, but I just thought, oh, I'm going to have to do another one now, to train for that. And the club was so wonderful. The president of the club, Eric Perret, who's a coach, and he gave me a training plan. I went around local businesses to ask for sponsorship because we just didn't have the money, to pay for something like this. I mean, I didn't know how much it was going to cost, but I knew that it would be nice to have local businesses supporting me as well, because then it sort of feels like it's a local village, community thing, watching me go to Romania. So I was very lucky. I got an estate agent, a garage, the local gym let me go for free to train. John Ring at the gym helped me with my strength and conditioning. It was just such a team effort. I was just so privileged, and everyone was inspiring me. I won Outstanding Achievement of the Year award at my club. I've only been around less than 6 months, and I won the award. And everyone was just amazing to me, really kind, considering how many brilliant people there are in my club. And that was it. And then Eric trained me from December till my event was in June. And it was hard. I have to say it was hard. I've never run on a track before. He got me doing track running. And the road bike, I went to Gravesend Cyclo Park. I was going round and round the track there because Romania was actually going to be round a motor circuit. So he wanted me to get used to going around a ring rather than off on roads. And then I entered the Gravesend Duathlon, standard duathlon, to get used to the distance in March. And I won that. Wow. So it was just like, it was all good confidence boosting. And I just, it was amazing. And then I I just trained for that, and then I went to Romania I did Clumber Park before that, another standard, and then I went to Romania in June with David Bagg, and the race was amazing, and I came fourth. It was just such an experience. I was the first GB athlete back, and yeah, but it's, it sounds easy, but it really wasn't. It sounds like, I had to work so hard to get there, but it was a joy as well. But it was very much working on my mindset and visualization. You should sit before the race. I lay on my bed and I visualize going round that course so many times, because I recorded it the day before. And that's what I did with all my races. And I would so recommend everyone is to definitely go around the bike course, and so you know exactly where to go. Transitions, practice them. That's what I did, and me and this other girl from GB in Romania, we were in the hotel lobby practicing our transitions. Julian Peck and we were just like, we just couldn't stop laughing, but we was like practicing putting our shoes on and our hats on and then running off and coming back and taking them off, and then, it was just because that's what makes the difference, is the transition, short space of you're doing that as quick as you can. And but it was fun, and we laughed, and it was definitely mindset and visualization is what helped me. You can't just do it, I'll just turn up. It's very much you have to believe that you can do it. And that's what I worked with a coach called Pete Cohen as well, on Facebook. And then I joined a group of his because he's a motivational coach, and he really didn't coach me personally, but what he says about, your mindset is the most important. If you can get that, you are your thoughts. And if you are thinking any doubt, you're not going to do it. So you've got to be, I'm going to do this, I'm going to win. And I do like to win. I've worked that out. I did in my tennis days, but I just couldn't do it so well as triathlon. But I think it's because I'm not so self-conscious doing triathlon. It's just very much you against you. It's not a people are watching you, but they're not really watching you. They're cheering everyone on where you'll come, and that's what I like about it. You've got to enjoy what you do, but you've also got to work hard for it. But you've got to believe you can do it as well. If I didn't think that I could do it, that race, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But I'd gone round that track, I'd run it, I'd finished in my head. So all I had to do was do it.
Yeah.
So when you're actually doing the race, you're not actually thinking about, am I going to finish? You've finished already in your head. You've done it. You've just got to remember to take, the gels and, what are your food, and just plan it in your head what you're going to do. And it is a lot of organisation. Reading Louise's book, it just means that she's, she was a bit sort of, I forgot this, I forgot that. And I thought, well, really, you should have gone through what you're going to take, what you're going to do, how unclip your shoe, anyway. So that's why it suited me, I think, because I'm that sort of person. And I did work hard, and I believe that I could do it. And I'm very proud of where I am, where I got to. But I'm now 57, going to be 58 this year. And I found out recently that I've got knee osteoarthritis.
Oh, no.
So that's been a bit of a setback, because I qualified for the World Championships in Ibiza this year.
Was that an automatic qualification?
Yeah. So I was lucky. I came first in the GB athlete. So I
nothing lucky about that. Nothing lucky about that. That was, again, just going back to what you've said. Your story's been remarkable. It's such a steep, short space of time and a fast learning curve. But you've had to put the work in, and it shows that you've done that. So there's nothing lucky about it. You've actually put the work in, and you've got to where you deserve to be. So, but again, it goes back to that. It goes back to that mindset, doesn't it? I had a young lad on last night I was chatting to, and he was, he is amazing. And it's like, it was just this, that, and the other. Well, no, you've still got to put that work in. If you don't put the work in, it doesn't happen.
You do. And I had this training plan, and I had, this is what I've got to do. I've got to go out for 3 hours on a bike. I've got to do a brick run. You've got to put in the work.
100%.
And 100%. And I did. The only time I didn't was when, I had a cold. I didn't think I even had a cold. I think I did most of it, actually. I work in a plant nursery with my husband, and I also walk dogs for a living. So, it was busy, lots of juggling, but I still made sure went out and did what Eric wanted me to do, because I knew that I wanted to give it my best shot.
Yeah.
And, not for other people, but for myself. I wanted to prove that I could do it. Yeah. And, and I had a lot of support with my sponsorship. And so, it inspires you to really go out there and do your best. And and the GB team were great and supportive as well. It was just amazing experience. And when I look at it now and I'm injured with my arthritis, I'm thinking, I can't believe I did that. And it's just when you're ill or you're injured or something, you just think, how ever run a half marathon? How did I do that? After I did Romania, of course, I was on a top high. And I was just like, this is amazing. And I went back to try, and I won quite a few that year. And but I also entered some half marathons as well, because I love running. And I won my age group in the Tunbridge Half Marathon. And that was the best run I've ever had in my life. And I can honestly say I enjoyed it so much. But I think I just took advantage a little bit of my enthusiasm and body when I overdid it, But it's I've had a visco injection in my knee now, and I'm determined that I will get back, even if it's just aquabike, and try and follow. You don't have to stop because you've got arthritis,
and that's the beauty of the multi-sport, isn't it? Because I always say that it's not just swim, bike, run, triathlon. There's so many other variations that we can adapt and work around. If you can't run, like you just said, aquabike.
I might even do sprint try because there's the run, but I shouldn't really run. But I love running. But it's, aquabike or something. I don't know. Who knows what's ahead? But I'm going to always give myself a goal and aim for the goal, because that's what inspires me to keep going. Yeah, and 100%. It puts my depression in the bag, in the box. And so, I'd fully recommend triathlon, and, or just get out there to do what you love. Go do what you love.
A fantastic story. And like you said, I think your years of tennis have obviously give you that hunger to go off and progress and do what you've done in like that short space of time. You've obviously got quite a lot of natural ability to go with the hard work that you've done. And you've got that strong mental ability to actually physically put yourself through the training, because let's be honest, it's not easy.
It isn't. No.
When you're having to try and train for three disciplines in all weathers, like you say, it's the consistency that's the key to it all.
And getting out of you have to get out of your comfort zone. It's and you always feel better when you do. With the open water swimming, I was terrified of that to start with as well. But you just got to go in, do a little bit, and get back in and do it again. And I've been in the sea before I did Brighton Try. I went down to the sea a few times and swam in there, because I just thought you've got to practice before you race. It's just logic, really. But the more you do it, the more you're going to, and the better you feel. The more you get out of that comfort zone, you feel double, triple better. When you've been in that cold water and you come out, you just think, wow, that was good. You want to get back in, but beforehand you're thinking of every excuse in the world not to get in. It's a bit windy, or it's a bit foggy, it's a bit
we
cold.
can always make excuses to stop doing things, can't we?
Oh yeah, but that's where your mind's telling you of all these things, when you just got to shut it up and just say, what Pete used to say was, what has feeling like it got to do with anything? And it's true. So so I don't feel like it. Well, feeling's got nothing to do. Just do it. Just don't think about it. Just do it.
And the ridiculous thing is, afterwards, we've done all these crazy things, you always feel so much better.
Yeah, I know. You've got to remember that. I think you've got to think, I always feel good afterwards, so let's just do it, and not think, oh, it's a bit slippery or it's a bit whatever, and think of all these excuses, because there are excuses, and a lot of them are probably quite, yeah. Let's stay at home, have a cup of tea, and eat cake. Yeah, that's a great one. But why don't we do all this training and then we deserve to have a cup of tea and a bit of cake?
Or go out for a long bike ride and have cake while you're out.
Yeah. I mean, this is what the club is all about. But that's what's nice. We all stop, and you're mixing with the elite as well as the newbies. And you're all talking about the same thing. They're on a different level to us, but it's just still nice talking and mixing with. What I love is mixing with all ages in the club. You've got the youngsters to up to, I'm one of the oldest. I think I am the oldest in the club, actually. But, it's still lovely to mix with other people, which you wouldn't normally do.
No.
You wouldn't go to a pub and mix with a whole lot of youngsters or whatever, but you're all talking about the same thing. You're all talking about how nervous you are, how you're not ready for your next run or your next race. And they're all doing Ironman and these amazing things. But it's just so fascinating hearing how they're training, how they're improving, and it's just fun to watch. So, yeah.
It's a great community. And like you say, there isn't many other places you can go where you'll have such a variety of ages. And I think, as we're getting older, having that community helps. Helps our well-being as well as everything else.
Well, it makes me feel young again. I'm not just
exactly. Yeah, I was just going to come to that.
Yeah, people knitting or doing something boring. I'm playing bridge or something. I'm mixing with people who are actually doing fun outdoor things as well, and it inspires you to do it. You may not be able to go as far as them, but you can go out and enjoy it.
It just shows as well that it doesn't matter what age you are. If you continue on the path that you're continuing on, you'll be able to do it as you're getting older, because that's what your body's used to. All right, maybe not as fast, maybe not as far, but you'll still be able to do the things that you want to do as long as you take care of yourself. And exactly. I think that's just worth everything, really.
Yeah, I think that's what is the best thing about triathlon. That is that you can mix with other people, and there is the age group win, so you do have a chance of winning something. Because if you were just entering and you were with all the 20-year-olds, you would get a bit despondent if you just never. But to be able to think that you can actually win something if you want.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lovely story. I'm sure there'll be lots of people inspired by that, Jane. It is a really have done what you've done in such a short time is incredible. So I've just got a few quick fire questions that I ask everybody towards the end. And the first one of those is, what's your favorite bit of kit?
My favorite bit of kit? That's a good question. I don't know. I think I just like putting on my running things because it's simple. You haven't got to put on. I find with this bike, you've got so many things to put on, cleats and I don't know, running. You just got to put your shoes on. It doesn't really matter what you wear. You can just go. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But so I think, running shoes, just put the running and off you go.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it is quite simple. I think that's a nice thing about doing a duathlon as well. You don't have to worry about wetsuits and swimming
Yeah, I mean, what I like about triathlon is because you are doing all three elements. You're doing an all-over fitness. They're all different in what they're doing. And like you say, when you're injured or tired, there's always something, you can go for a swim if your legs are hurting. You can put the pull buoy in between your knees. You can just still do your arms. There's still things that you can do. And I think that's why I just like doing all three. But duathlon is good for that. I did enjoy doing duathlon but I think it is harder on the knees as you get older.
Yeah, I agree. So the second question is, you've already said you're in a club and you've got a coach, or you've been coached.
Yeah, I've been coached,
Yeah. What other resources would you use to help you in your triathlon and duathlon races?
What you mean? I had Training Peaks. Did you? Yeah,
no. Well, it could be books, it could be videos, it could be.
Yeah, I used the Joe Friel's training Bible.
Yeah,
I bought that before when I was in COVID times. I read that because you're just learning, but I was doing it on my own. So, and I didn't understand a lot of it.
Yeah.
I must admit, it's quite technical.
Yeah,
That's the thing that scares me a little bit in, power meters and all these things. I mean, because I live off grid here in East Sussex, I can't ride that's something I'm really regret is I can't join a Swift or something like that to be part of a team on a bike, on a turbo bike.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the electricity. So I can't use the turbo bike in the winter. So I have to go to the gym and go on their spin bike. But I'd quite like to be part of that because it's a community thing. And a lot of the club do that throughout the winter. And I feel like I'm missing out a bit on that because it sounds good fun. But, you can't have everything. So, I'm lucky that I have a gym where I've still got free membership and I can go along there whenever I like and use the spin bike and do, I can still work out. Reading, Louise mentioned, but Dare to Try, Eric helping me on Training Peaks, he sent through the plan through there. So, I was very lucky.
And what does an average week of training look like for you?
It depended on, I didn't put it in as much as a lot of people do. I think it was probably 7 to 8 hours, something like that. It wasn't huge. Sometimes it'd be more because if I could go out for a long ride at the weekend, 3 or 4 hours at the weekend, that just made it up. But, walking the dogs and doing the nursery, because my husband does all these shows all the summer.
Yeah.
It starts from now. He's got one tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. So, it's just fitting everything in. And, but yeah, I didn't really work out the hours, to be honest, but because I just did what he told me to do.
So what did it involve? Was it like several swims a week, couple of runs, couple of bikes?
It wasn't, because it was the duathlon that he trained me for, I only swam once a week, and that was just for sort of relaxing. Well, it was sort of just to loosen up the body. So mainly it was running and cycling. It was track running every Wednesday. And that, I sometimes do that after a swim as well. But it was, it was a lot of brick runs off the bike. Because that's the main thing you've got to do. Your legs have got to be able to run when you come off that bike. And I still struggle that. My fault was I go too fast on the 10K. My bike is my best sport. You wouldn't think, having only ridden a mountain bike, but I think that made me. I remember going out for a ride with the club right at the beginning, my first ride out, and I was riding out with an Ironman lady who'd done and Claire who's done age group, and another very fit lady, and we went up the steepest hill in Bibra. I just remember it so well, and I was thinking, I'm not going to make it. And I beat, and I got to the top, and they were like, if you can go up the hill on that heavy thing. They were also helping me, talking about getting a racing bike. And they said, we're not going to help you now, Jane. No, we're not going to help you. No, you're just, if you can beat us coming up here on a mountain bike, and I think, and I remember talking to an Ironman guy who lives near me, and he said that he trains on a mountain bike for his Ironman, because if you can go up steep hills on a mountain bike, when you get on that racing bike, you're so strong. I mean, it does, and I think it probably did help me having only a mountain bike to start with, because I think it made me quite fit, just riding out on that. I mean, I was definitely faster when I got my racing bike, and then when I put the cleats on, I was even faster. But, it's just, you have to do it in stages. I made the mistake of doing it all at once, because I got absolutely terrified putting the cleats on. I used to have nightmares about it. But so, I'm so glad that I only mastered it 3 months before.
Yeah. And that's a great point to make for anybody listening to this. Don't try and do everything together. Do one thing at a time, master it, and then move on. That is such a,
Swimming, I get that told me a lot by my swimming coach at the club. He's saying, just to work on one thing. Yeah. Don't try and do it all at the same time, because you're thinking, I've got to do this, and that. But if you just concentrate on working one, master that, and then move on to the next thing. Yeah. And not overwhelm yourself. But
Yeah,
yeah, with the
100%.
bike, definitely it was far too much and I scared myself. So if you are changing from a mountain bike to road bike, do the road bike without cleats, master that, and then get the cleats.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Great advice. Great advice. And on that,
Mm.
that was my next question. What advice would you give to anybody wanting to get into triathlon or multi-sport in general?
Definitely. Just give it a go. Give it a go. If you like being outdoors, if you just like doing different things, not just training for one sport, you've got a multiple of things that you can do. And also an extra thing is strength and conditioning. It's not actually a triathlon. I think strength and conditioning and working in the gym is the fourth element. You do need to do that as well. Yeah. It's not just, there's so much variety that you can put into your training. It doesn't need to be boring. You can make it up, do different things every day. You can do hill reps, you can do long run, you can do really slow bike, slow run. It doesn't have to all be at a top speed. I think you think that you've got to run everything and really fast but really the long drawn out 3-hour bikes just at a steady pace is much, it's just as worthwhile as a fast 20 minutes, so it's just there's so much to it that it doesn't get boring. And if you want to meet other people who have the same desire and same, just sort of, they think the same way as you do. When you start talking to them, they're all, want the same thing. They're all nervous of the same thing. You all have the same fears, the same goals and everything. And it's just working together and helping each other. And if you are part of the club, you can always ask people, don't feel alone. And I think you could be part of a good club that helps people. Not, you have to ask yourself. They won't automatically come to you and say, "Now look here, this is what you need to do." You have to ask. You have to go forward and say, "Look, I'm planning to doing a sprint try. Do you think you could, give me some advice?" And they will do nothing. There's nothing more a triathlete likes talking about is talking triathlon.
Yeah,
they could go on. You can go in a pub and they'll talk triathlon for hours and hours.
Yeah,
because that's their favorite thing. So if you look, I'd give it a go. You've got nothing to lose and a lot to gain.
Cool.
That sounds very cliche to finish, but it is. I'm so grateful that I started it.
The last question is, what are your short and long-term goals?
Well, I just want to make the most of what I can do now with my arthritis. I want to be able to compete again. But, I'm not going to injure myself to be able to do that, but I still want to get out there and train. And it doesn't have to be, when I say train, it can be so little, just to go for a run, a bike, swim a week, or you can train hard. It doesn't have to be, it can be whatever you want it to be. Yeah. That's the beauty of it. And if you have a goal at the end, which, I think I'm going to enter an aqua bike. Yeah. Because that I know I can do. And whether it's in June or it's September, it depends how my knee gets better after this injection. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going out open water swimming. I live near Buell Water, so I'm really lucky I can swim there. So I'm just going to keep going, and when it hurts, stop doing it and do something else. I'll just stop biking and get on something else. But I'm always going to be working on my fitness, because fitness is definitely my medication. Yeah. It's you don't need it in a bottle. You need it to get out there and push yourself, and just don't listen to that inner voice saying, "Oh, I'm no good. I can't be bothered. What's the point?" All those things that go in your head all the time, saying, "Why are we bothering? Why are we doing this? It's so stupid. Let's just eat. It's just, it is silly. So why are we going out for a run in the freezing, But just remember how you feel afterwards and how good you'll feel. And you will feel different straight away. As soon as you do that fast run, even if it's just a walk run up the road, you'll feel better, because that's what our bodies were made for, really. Not sitting around fiddling with internet and, it's getting out there.
Lovely. Thank you very much. That's a great place to finish.
Thank you.
As I said, really, really nice story. Told really nicely and eloquently. So thank you for your time.
That's a pleasure, Rich. Thank you for having me.
So thanks once again, Jane, for reaching out and sharing your story. I'm sure that will inspire a lot of people of a certain age to think, actually, I could do that. And Jane's done it. And look how successful she's been with the hard work that she's put in. I'm going to give it a go. And that's what we're here for. That's the whole point of the podcast, is to try and inspire others to do what we love and enjoy. And hopefully they'll get the same pleasure out of doing it and keep fit at the same time. So by the time this goes live, next Wednesday, we will be on a plane over to Italy and getting ready to race on the Saturday. So when we get back, we'll have loads of stories to share, I'm sure. And look out on Instagram. I'll be putting up a few photographs, no doubt, while we're over there, so you can follow what's going on. So once again, thank you for taking the time out to listen. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please go over to your platform that you listen to and give us a rating. 5 stars would be nice, but I know it's not that good. But yeah, if you could give us a rating and leave us some comments, that's always nice. As long as they're constructive, we're not bothered. Nice to get a bit of feedback. And finally, it would be great if you could share this podcast with your friends, training partners, anybody else you know who does multisport, or even people that are interested in maybe taking multisport up. Just point them in the direction of our podcast, and they might be inspired, hopefully, because that's what we're all about. If you do want to get in touch, as usual, you can get in touch by email at the Agegroup Multisport Podcast @gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at amp_1967. We're on Facebook at ampgb and Twitter at Agegroup Multisport Podcast. So thank you once again, and don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.